There is something that happens to parents that doesn't have a clean name in everyday language. It isn't depression exactly. It isn't just being tired. It's something more specific than either of those. And most parents who are living inside it don't know what it is. They just know something is off. They know the good moments aren't landing the way they used to. They know they are going through the motions of something that is supposed to feel like more than this. And they don't have a word for it, which makes it harder to carry, not easier. This video is going to name it. And once it's named, something changes. Not everything, not tonight, but the formless weight of it. The thing that has no edges and no address starts to become something you can actually see. This is what parental burnout actually feels like from the inside. Not the checklist, not the clinical criteria. The actual daily texture of it, the part that lives in the ordinary moments and doesn't announce itself as a crisis. So let's start with where it actually begins. It usually doesn't start with exhaustion. That's the part nobody explains. Most people think burnout arrives as collapse, some dramatic moment when the system finally shuts down. But for most parents, it arrives much more quietly than that. It arrives as a kind of dimming. Think about the last time something genuinely good happened. A moment that, by every objective measure, should have felt like something. Your child laughed at something, reached for your hand, said something that would have landed differently 6 months ago. And instead of feeling it, you watched it from somewhere slightly behind yourself, like a person standing at a window looking in. That is where burnout tends to announce itself first, not in the hard moments. Those are already hard. In the good ones. In the loss of the moments that are supposed to make it worth it. And when that happens, when you are standing in a moment that should feel like something and it doesn't, there is a specific thought that follows. Quiet, quick, devastating. What is wrong with me? Not, I am exhausted. Not, I need something. What is wrong with me? That question is worth sitting with for a moment, because the answer most parents give themselves is the wrong one. The exhaustion follows. It always follows. But it's a specific kind of exhaustion, one that doesn't respond to rest the way exhaustion is supposed to. You get a full night of sleep and wake up just as depleted. You get a weekend morning to yourself and come back to it still hollow. The tiredness isn't in your body. It's in a different layer. And no amount of horizontal time touches it. That is not normal tiredness. That is what chronic emotional depletion feels like, when it has been running long enough to become the baseline. Now let's look at how this actually happens, because understanding the mechanism changes everything. Here is the mechanism, not the moral story. The actual mechanism. Your emotional resources are not infinite. This is not a metaphor, and it is not a character judgment. It is a functional fact about how the human nervous system operates under sustained demand. Emotional labor, the kind that parenting requires, draws from a specific reservoir: attunement, regulation, responsiveness, patience. Every time your child needs you to hold something, a meltdown, a fear, a conflict, a need, you draw from that reservoir. Here's what the research on burnout consistently shows. The depletion is not caused by a single hard event. It is caused by sustained demand combined with inadequate replenishment over a long enough period of time. Not one bad week. Not one terrible month. The slow structural draining of something that was never given the conditions to refill. And here is the part that matters for you specifically. The parents most vulnerable to this are not the ones who don't care. They are the ones who care the most, and who have been doing it without enough witness, without enough support, without anyone in their immediate world who can hold even a fraction of what they are holding. The care itself is not the problem. The absence of anything coming back in is the problem. You did not get here because something is wrong with you. You got here because you have been operating at a sustained output that exceeds what anyone can maintain indefinitely, and the conditions for replenishment have not been in place. That distinction between who you are and what state your resources are currently in is the most important distinction this video will make, because one of those is permanent and the other one isn't. Which brings us to the part that's hardest to talk about. Now for the part that is harder to say and harder to hear, because so far, this has been the manageable version. Exhaustion, dimming, depletion. Those are livable words, but there are other parts of this that most parents carry entirely alone because they cannot imagine saying them out loud without it meaning something terrible about them. The resentment, not the passing frustration of a hard moment, the deeper, quieter thing underneath it. The feeling that arrives when your child needs something again, and something in you, not on the surface but somewhere below it, does not want to give it. That one is almost impossible to name, because the moment you name it, the guilt arrives so fast it doesn't even wait for you to finish the thought. And the detachment, the specific experience of being physically present with your child, in the room, at the dinner table, at the bedside, and feeling like you are watching from a distance that you cannot close, like the connection is there, in theory, but something is muffling it. And you do not know if it is temporary or if something has gone away permanently and is not coming back. That fear, the fear of permanence, is one of the heaviest things a parent can carry alone. And most parents carry it alone, because who do you tell? I love my children, and I feel nothing when I look at them right now. That sentence doesn't have a safe place to land in most people's lives. Here is what I want you to hold while you sit with that. The detachment is not indifference. It is what a depleted nervous system does to protect what is left. When your emotional resources fall below a certain threshold, the nervous system does something very specific. It reduces output. It narrows the range of what you can feel, not because it doesn't care, but because it is managing a resource crisis, and it does not have more to give right now. The love is not gone. It is behind a door that exhaustion has partially closed. That is not a verdict on you as a parent. That is a description of a biological state under sustained overload. And the resentment, the thing that produces the most shame, that is grief wearing the wrong coat. Resentment and burnout is almost always grief for what has been given with nothing coming back. For the unreturned effort, the unwitnessed work, the version of this that was supposed to feel different and doesn't. The resentment is not evidence that you don't love them. It is evidence that you have been pouring out from a container that has had no source of refill for longer than anyone should sustain. If any part of this landed, if tonight is going to be another 6 p.m. that you don't know how to survive, there is something in the description built specifically for that hour. Not a course, not a system. 5 specific things to say and do in the hardest part of the day that don't require you to be in a different state than the one you're in right now. It's called the 6 p.m. Survival Kit, and it's in the description. For tonight, as you are. So what does all of this actually mean for you right now? So now you have a name for it. And it is likely that somewhere in this video you recognize something. Maybe the detachment, maybe the resentment, maybe just the specific quality of exhaustion that doesn't move when you sleep. And the question that follows recognition is always the same. What do I do with this? Here is the honest answer. What you do with it depends entirely on understanding what it actually is. Burnout is a resource problem, not a character problem, not a motivation problem, not evidence of how much or how little you love your children. A resource problem has a specific kind of solution, and it is not willpower. It is not trying harder. It is not a commitment to be more present, more patient, more regulated. You have already tried that. You already know what happens when you try harder from inside a state of depletion. Resource problems require replenishment. And replenishment, real replenishment, is slower than anyone wants it to be. This is not going to resolve in a weekend. It is going to resolve in the accumulation of small, consistent moments where something comes back in instead of only going out. That looks different for every parent, but it starts with one thing that is available tonight. In the state you are already in. Stop adding to the indictment. The 3 a.m. inventory, the running catalog of everything you did wrong today, is not helping you recover. It is drawing from the same reservoir that is already empty. The first movement is not toward a new behavior. It is away from the one that is costing you the most and returning the least, the self-prosecution. You do not have to feel differently tonight. You do not have to be in a better state. You just have to know that what you are carrying has a name, has a mechanism, and is not a verdict on who you are. That is not nothing. That is actually a significant amount. And for the internal voice that says, knowing this doesn't change anything, I can understand it perfectly and still lose it tonight. That voice is right about one thing. Understanding alone does not close the gap, but understanding is what makes every next step possible. You cannot navigate somewhere you cannot see. You just got a map. What you do with it is the next part. If tonight is the 6 p.m. this video was describing, the kit in the description is for exactly that moment. 5 things. No system required. Link in the description and the pinned comment. What was the moment you realized something was off? Not just tired, but something deeper than tired. You came into this video carrying something without a name. That is one of the specific cruelties of burnout. It doesn't announce itself as a diagnosis. It just slowly becomes the texture of your days. The dimming, the detachment, the exhaustion that doesn't move, the resentment that you couldn't say out loud. None of those things mean what you feared they meant. They are not evidence that you are failing. They are not evidence that the love is gone. They are not evidence that you are permanently altered into someone who cannot feel the things they are supposed to feel. They are evidence that you have been giving from a reservoir that has had no source of refill for longer than any person can sustain without consequence. The difference between broken and depleted is not a small difference. Broken means the structure is compromised. Depleted means the resource is low. You are not broken. You are depleted. And depletion, unlike breaking, has a direction. The direction is not fast. It does not look like a transformation. It looks like a very small decision made tonight to stop adding to the prosecution and to let one thing, just one thing, come back in. That is the whole beginning. Not perfect, not healed. A parent who now knows what they are carrying and what it actually means. That is enough for tonight. And tonight is all that is asked of you right now.